Jazz. The day my husband divorced me, he never looked into my eyes. He simply signed the papers, pushed them across the table, and stood up as if he had just finished another business meeting. Jazz. 5 years of marriage, 5 years of love, 5 years of believing we would grow old together. All of it ended in less than 10 minutes. I still remember the sound of the judge saying, "Jazz, the divorce is final." Those 4 words echoed inside my head long after everyone else had left the courtroom. I didn't cry, not because I wasn't hurting, Jazz, but because my heart had already broken weeks before that day. My name is Emily Carter. At least, that's the name I had believed belonged to me my entire life. Back then, Jazz. Everyone knew me as nothing more than a poor salesgirl, working long hours inside a small clothing store. Every morning I smiled at strangers. Every evening I counted every dollar before buying groceries. Jazz. Life wasn't easy, but I never complained because I believed love was enough. I believed that as long as my husband and I had each other, we could survive anything. I was wrong, very wrong. Jazz. As I stepped outside the courthouse, cold wind brushed against my face. People walked past me without even noticing. Cars rushed down the busy street. The world continued exactly the same. Jazz. Even though mine had completely fallen apart. I tightened my grip around the small suitcase beside me. That suitcase held almost everything I owned. A few dresses, some family photographs, Jazz, my mother's old silver necklace, and the wedding ring I had just taken off. I stared at the ring for a long moment. 5 years ago, Jazz. Ethan had slipped it onto my finger, while promising he would never leave me. He promised we would face every storm together. Promises are easy. Keeping them is what reveals someone's true character. Jazz. Behind me I heard familiar footsteps. I didn't have to turn around. I already knew who it was. Ethan, my ex-husband. His expensive shoes clicked against the stone floor. Jazz. Then another pair of footsteps followed, soft, confident, elegant. Vanessa, the woman he had chosen over me. I turned slowly. There they were, standing together. She held his arm like she had already won. Jazz. Maybe she thought she had. Vanessa looked at my old coat before smiling. "I'm surprised you even showed up looking like that," she said. Her voice was calm, but every word carried poison. Jazz. Ethan didn't stop her. He simply stood there, silent, looking at me as if I were a stranger. "You'll be fine," he finally said. "I've transferred enough money into your account." Enough money, Jazz. That was how he measured 5 years together. Not memories, not sacrifices, not love, just numbers. I smiled, not because I was happy, because I refused to let them see me break. "I don't need your pity, Jazz," I replied quietly. Vanessa laughed. "Pity, Emily? That's all anyone can give you now." Her words should have crushed me. Instead, they planted something else inside my heart, a quiet promise. Jazz. One day, they would regret treating me like I was nothing. I picked up my suitcase without another word. I walked away. I didn't look back, because sometimes the strongest thing you can do, Jazz, is leave with your dignity still standing. I had no idea where I was going. The apartment Ethan had paid for no longer belonged to me. Jazz. Most of my savings had disappeared during the years I supported his business. Every extra shift, every missed holiday, every dream I postponed. It had all been for him, while he chased success. Jazz. I worked overtime, while he attended business dinners. I folded clothes inside a small shop. While he built his future, I unknowingly gave away mine, or so I thought. That evening, rain began to fall. Jazz. I found a cheap motel near the train station. The room smelled old. The wallpaper was peeling. The bed creaked every time I moved. But it was the only place I could afford. I sat quietly by the window. Jazz. For the first time all day, the tears finally came, not because I had lost Ethan, but because I couldn't understand how someone I loved could change so completely. Was any of it real, Jazz? Or had I simply believed the version of him that never truly existed? My phone buzzed a message from my best friend, Sophie. Please tell me you're okay. I stared at the screen for several seconds, Jazz. Then typed only 3 words. I'm still breathing. She called immediately. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer the moment I heard her voice, Jazz. The walls I had built around my heart began to crack. Emily, she whispered, I'm coming to get you. I shook my head even though she couldn't see me. No, why? Because if you see me like this, Jazz, I'll finally believe it's real. Silence. Then she said something I would never forget. Sometimes losing the wrong person is how life makes room for the right future. At that moment, Jazz, I didn't believe her. I couldn't. How could anything good come from losing everything? I ended the call. The room became silent again. Rain tapped softly against the glass. Without thinking, Jazz. I reached into my suitcase. My fingers touched something cold. The silver necklace. The one my mother had made me promise never to lose. When I was 12 years old, Jazz. She held my hands and looked into my eyes. If life ever takes everything from you, she had whispered, keep this necklace close. It will lead you home. Back then, Jazz, I thought she was simply comforting a scared little girl. Now, those words suddenly felt different, heavier, almost like they carried a hidden meaning. I turned the necklace over in my hands, Jazz. It looked ordinary, old, worn, nothing special, or so I believed. A tiny scratch caught my attention. I had never noticed it before. Curious, I pressed gently against the back, Jazz. A soft sound echoed through the room. My breathing stopped. The pendant had opened. Inside, folded carefully into a tiny compartment, was a piece of paper yellow with age. Jazz. My hands trembled as I slowly unfolded it. Only one sentence was written inside. When the time comes, take this to Blackwood Castle. Blackwood Castle? I frowned. I had never heard that name before. Jazz. Why would my mother hide something like this? Who was she really? And why had she waited until after her death to leave me such a mystery? Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. Inside, Jazz, my entire world shifted because deep down, for the very first time, I felt something stronger than pain. Hope. Little did I know, opening that necklace wasn't just the beginning of a mystery, Jazz. It was the first to discovering a truth so unbelievable that it would change my name, my future, and the lives of everyone who had ever looked down on me, Jazz. The note stayed in my hand long after I had finished reading it. When the time comes, take this to Blackwood Castle. I read those words again and again. The handwriting was neat, careful, Jazz. Almost elegant. It was definitely my mother's, but she had never mentioned any castle. She had never spoken about rich families, old estates, or hidden secrets. As far as I knew, Jazz, my mother had spent her entire life working as a nurse. She worked double shifts. She came home exhausted. Yet she always found time to make me smile. She taught me to be kind, Jazz. Even when people weren't kind to me, she taught me that respect was worth more than money. Most of all, she always repeated one sentence. Never hate people because they look down on you. One day, Jazz, life will answer them better than you ever could. Back then, I thought those were just comforting words. Now they felt like a warning, or maybe a promise. I barely slept that night, Jazz. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's cold face. Then I saw the necklace, then the note. It was as if my past and future were pulling me in opposite directions. When morning arrived, Jazz, I washed my face, put on my simplest blue dress, and looked in the cracked motel mirror. The woman staring back at me looked tired, but she wasn't defeated. Not anymore. I whispered to my reflection, Jazz, one step at a time, Emily. That was enough. The first thing I needed was work. Without money, I couldn't even think about visiting a mysterious castle, Jazz. So I returned to the clothing store where I had worked for nearly 7 years. The manager, Mrs. Collins, smiled sadly when she saw me. I heard about the divorce. News traveled fast, Jazz. Especially bad news. I'm sorry, it's all right, I answered. It isn't. She walked around the counter and hugged me tightly. It was the first genuine hug I had received in weeks. I've kept your job, she said. I knew you'd need it. My eyes filled with tears, not because of pity, because someone still believed I mattered. I don't know how to thank you. You already have. How? Jazz, you never stopped working hard. For the first time since my divorce, I smiled. Life slowly returned to its routine. Morning buses, long hours on my feet, folding clothes, helping customers. Jazz. Smiling even when my heart still hurt. Most people never noticed. But heartbreak changes the way you see the world. You begin noticing things you ignored before. Lonely faces, tired workers. Jazz. Parents counting coins before buying school uniforms. Everyone carried invisible battles. Mine was simply easier to recognize. One afternoon, a luxury car stopped outside the store. Jazz. Several employees rushed toward the windows. Who is that? Must be someone important. A tall woman wearing designer clothes walked inside. Jazz. She looked around for only a second before walking directly toward me. Excuse me, she said politely. I'm looking for her address. I spent almost an hour helping her. She never acted superior. Jazz. She thanked me after every suggestion. When she finally chose a dress, she smiled. You're very good at this. Thank you. No, she shook her head. I mean it. You treat people with respect. Jazz. That's rare. I thanked her and wrapped her purchase. As she prepared to leave, she paused. What's your name? Emily. She repeated it quietly, almost like she was trying to remember it. Then she left. Jazz. I didn't think much about the encounter, but someone else had been watching across the street inside another luxury car. Vanessa. A few days later, Ethan walked into the store. Jazz. The entire staff became quiet. He looked richer than ever. New watch, tailored suit, expensive shoes. He looked exactly like the successful businessman he had always dreamed of becoming. Yeah, he walked straight toward me. Emily. I kept folding sweaters. Can I help you find something? He sighed. Can we talk? I'm working. It'll only take a minute. I finally looked at him. Jazz. His expression wasn't guilty. It wasn't loving. It was uncomfortable, like someone trying to avoid an awkward conversation. What do you want? He hesitated. I heard you're staying in a motel. I'll manage. You don't have to be stubborn. I can pay for a better apartment. I almost laughed. Why? So you don't feel responsible? He frowned. I still care about you. No, Hughes. You care about your conscience. Those words hit him harder than I expected. He looked away. I never wanted to hurt you, but you still did. Silence. Then he quietly said, Jazz. Vanessa thinks we're making a mistake by talking. Then maybe you should listen to her. I walked away before he could answer. As I disappeared into the stockroom, my hands began shaking. Jazz. Not because I still loved him, because seeing him reminded me of everything I had sacrificed, and how easily he had replaced me. That evening, I visited my mother's grave. Jazz. It had been almost 3 years since cancer had taken her away. I placed fresh white flowers beside the stone. I wish you were here. The wind gently moved through the trees. Jazz. I don't know what Blackwood Castle is. I don't know why you left that note, but I'm going to find out. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then something caught my eye, near the flowers. Jazz. Half buried beneath the soil, a tiny silver key. I frowned. It looked old, very old. Had someone left it there? Or had it been hidden all along? Attached to the key was another small tag. Only 4 words. Safe Deposit Box 317. My heart began racing. Another clue, another mystery. What exactly had my mother been protecting? And why had she waited until after her death to reveal it? The next morning I went to the bank. The elderly manager looked surprised when I showed him the key. Box 317. Yes. He checked his records several times, then looked back at me. This box has been untouched for over 25 years. 25 years. That was longer than I had been alive. He led me downstairs into a quiet vault. One by one, he unlocked the heavy security doors. Finally, he stopped in front of box 317. This belongs to you now. With trembling hands, I inserted the key. The lock clicked open. Inside wasn't gold or money. Instead, there was a leather folder, a faded photograph, and a sealed envelope with my name written across the front. My mother's handwriting. My breathing became shallow. Slowly, I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. The first line made my entire body freeze. I could hardly breathe. Who I really was? My hands trembled so much I almost dropped the letter. Outside the vault, the world carried on as usual. People deposited money. Employees greeted customers. Cars passed by. No one knew that behind one locked door, a young woman who believed she was just a poor salesgirl was about to discover that her entire life had been built on a carefully guarded secret. And the first name written in that letter wasn't my mother's. It was a name I had never seen before. The blood drained from my face. Who was Princess Amelia? And why did my mother believe that name had anything to do with me? For several seconds I couldn't move. The letter slipped slightly in my hands as I stared at the name. Princess Amelia Rose Ashford. I whispered it out loud. It meant nothing to me. I had never heard it before. I looked around the silent bank vault, almost expecting someone to step inside and tell me there had been a mistake. But no one came. I unfolded the letter completely and began reading. My dearest Emily, if you are reading this, then life has already taken away the people you trusted most. I prayed that day would never come, but I knew it might. Before you judge me for hiding the truth, please remember that every lie I told was meant to protect you. The woman you called mother loved you with all her heart, but I was never the woman who gave birth to you. My heart stopped. I read the sentence again, then again. The words refused to make sense. I was never the woman who gave birth to you. Tears filled my eyes. No, I whispered. No, that's impossible. She was my mother. She had raised me. She had held my hand when I was sick. She had celebrated every birthday. She had stayed awake all night whenever I had nightmares. How could she not be my real mother? I forced myself to keep reading. 25 years ago, a terrible accident changed many lives. Your parents, the Crown Prince and Princess of the Ashford family, were involved in an attack while traveling home after a royal charity event. Many people believed no one survived. They were wrong. You survived. You were only 6 months old, before your mother took her last breath. She placed you in my arms and begged me to disappear before anyone found us. She feared there were people who wanted the Ashford bloodline to disappear forever. I promised her I would protect you, even if it meant giving up my own life. My vision blurred, the tears wouldn't stop. None of it felt real. A princess? Me, no. There had to be another explanation. Maybe someone had switched the letters. Maybe this belonged to another family. Maybe the bank manager had made a mistake. I looked inside the folder again. There were photographs. One showed a beautiful young woman wearing a simple white dress instead of royal clothes. She was smiling as she held a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. The baby wore the same silver necklace that now rested around my neck. On the back of the photograph were 6 handwritten words. Princess Emily. I slowly touched my own face. Then the baby's, the eyes. The smile, even as an infant. She looked exactly like me. I searched through the folder. There were newspaper clippings, old photographs, medical records, birth certificates, Gaz. Every document carried official stamps. Nothing looked fake. Everything pointed toward one unbelievable truth. The poor salesgirl named Emily Carter had actually been born Princess Emily Ashford. Gaz. I closed my eyes. Memories flooded back. Mom never liked cameras. She never celebrated my birthday in public. She moved us to different towns several times while I was growing up. Whenever I asked why, she always smiled. Fresh starts are good for the soul. I believed her. Now, everything suddenly made sense. She wasn't running toward a better life. She was running away from danger. Gaz. At the bottom of the folder was another envelope. Smaller, thicker. It contained a business card. Lord Henry Blackwood Castle. There was also one short handwritten message. Trust him, Gaz. He is the only person who knows the truth. I sat there for nearly an hour. My entire life had changed inside a quiet bank vault. Yesterday I was wondering how to pay next month's rent. Today, Gaz. Someone was telling me I belonged to one of the oldest royal families in the country. It sounded impossible. And yet, every piece of evidence pointed in the same direction. Gaz. The bank manager gently knocked on the vault door. Miss Carter, I quickly wiped away my tears. Yes? Is everything all right? I forced a small smile. Gaz. I just found something that belonged to my mother. He nodded kindly. I understand. If only he knew. Outside the bank, the city looked exactly the same. People hurried to work, children laughed. Gaz. Traffic lights changed, the world hadn't changed. Only mine had. I walked into a nearby cafe and ordered the cheapest cup of coffee. The letter remained open on the table. Gaz. I kept staring at Lord Henry Blackwood's business card. Should I call him? What if it was a trap? What if this entire story was built on lies? But another thought entered my mind. If it were fake, Gaz. Why would my mother spend 25 years protecting it? She had nothing to gain. She had sacrificed everything for me. I trusted her more than anyone. Taking a deep breath, I picked up my phone. Gaz. My finger hovered over the number. Finally, I pressed call. It rang only once. A calm, elderly voice answered. Blackwood Estate. Suddenly I couldn't speak. Hello? My name is Emily. Silence. Then, Emily Carter? Yes. Another silence, longer this time. When the man finally spoke again, his voice was shaking. Please tell me, Gaz. Were you wearing a silver necklace when you called? I instinctively touched the necklace around my neck. Yes. A deep breath came from the other end. My lady, Gaz. I have been waiting for this phone call for 25 years. I froze. My lady? I believe we should meet immediately. I don't even know who you are. My name is Henry Blackwood. Gaz. The man your mother trusted with her final promise. My hands tightened around the phone. Is any of this true? It is. Am I really? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Henry answered anyway. Yes. You are the last living daughter of the Ashford royal family. For several moments, neither of us spoke. Finally, he said quietly. I've already sent a car. What? Gaz. It should arrive in 15 minutes. I never agreed to come. I know. But once you hear the whole truth, you'll understand why your mother believed today would eventually come. Gaz. Exactly 15 minutes later, a long black luxury car stopped outside the cafe. People on the sidewalk turned to look. The driver stepped out wearing a formal uniform. He walked toward me. Emily, yes. He bowed respectfully. My lady. The words sounded unreal. People nearby stared in confusion. I wanted to tell him to stop. Instead, I quietly followed him. Gaz. As the car pulled away, I looked out the window at the city I had always called home. I didn't know where this journey would end, but deep inside, I could feel my mother's voice. Gaz. It's time to go home. I had no idea what was waiting behind the gates of Blackwood Castle. But one thing was certain. The poor salesgirl the world had ignored, Gaz, was about to step into a life she had never imagined. The black car moved quietly through the city. I had never sat in a car like this before. The seats were soft leather, Gaz. The windows were dark enough that people outside couldn't see in. Everything felt expensive, yet strangely calm. I looked down at my hands. Just 3 days earlier, Gaz, those same hands had been folding sweaters in a small clothing store. Now they rested on my lap as I traveled toward a place called Blackwood Castle. I still couldn't believe any of it, Gaz. The driver glanced at me through the mirror. "Are you comfortable, my lady?" I smiled awkwardly. "You don't have to call me that." He smiled politely. "I'm afraid I do." I sighed. "Gaz, this is all happening too fast. I understand." That was all he said. He didn't ask questions. He didn't stare. For the first time since my divorce, Gaz, someone treated me with quiet respect instead of curiosity. Nearly 2 hours later, the city disappeared behind us. Tall trees lined both sides of the road. The air became cooler. Gaz, the noise of traffic faded into silence. Then, I saw it. Beyond a pair of massive iron gates stood one of the most beautiful places I had ever seen. Blackwood Castle. It wasn't just a house, Gaz. It looked like something from an old storybook. Tall stone towers reached into the sky. Colorful gardens stretched across the grounds. Fountains sparkled under the afternoon sun. Gaz. The gate slowly opened as the car approached. Several guards saluted, not to the driver, to me. My heart began racing again. "This can't be real," I whispered. "Gaz." The car stopped in front of the main entrance. Before I could open the door, an elderly gentleman stepped outside. He stood perfectly straight despite his age. His grey hair was neatly combed. Gaz. His dark suit looked simple but elegant. The moment our eyes met, his own filled with tears, he slowly walked toward me. For a second neither of us spoke. Then he bowed. Not a small nod, a full, respectful bow. "Welcome home, Princess Emily." I quickly stepped back. "Please don't." He looked confused. "I've never been anyone's princess, you have." He smiled sadly. "Gaz, you simply didn't know it. This feels like a dream." "I imagine it does." He introduced himself. "My name is Henry Blackwood." I recognized the voice immediately. The man from Gaz. He gently offered his hand. "Would you allow an old friend of your mother's to show you inside?" I nodded. The castle was even more breathtaking from the inside. Gaz. Large crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Beautiful paintings covered the walls. Ancient wooden staircases curved toward the upper floors. Everything looked carefully preserved, not flashy. Gaz. Not cold, it felt alive, almost as if every hallway carried memories. Servants quietly greeted Henry as we walked, but each time they looked at me, their expressions changed. Some smiled, Gaz. Others seemed shocked. One elderly woman quietly wiped away tears. I noticed. "Why is everyone looking at me like that?" Henry answered gently. "Because many of them served your parents, Gaz." I stopped walking. "They remember you, but I was only a baby. They remember the day you disappeared." Silence filled the hallway. Henry led me into a private library. Books covered every wall. Gaz. A fire burned quietly in the fireplace. He motioned toward a chair. "Please," I sat. A maid entered carrying tea. She placed the tray on the table. As she turned to leave, she smiled warmly. "Gaz, it's good to see you home, Your Highness." Before I could answer, she quietly left. I looked at Henry. "They all believe this?" "They don't believe it. They know it." He opened a large leather folder. Gaz. Inside were dozens of documents, photographs, official records, letters, family trees. Every page told the same story, my story. He pointed toward an old portrait hanging above the fireplace. Gaz. A beautiful young woman smiled gently beside a handsome man wearing formal military clothing. My breath caught. The woman looked almost exactly like me. The woman on the left. Henry smiled. Gaz. Your mother, and beside her, your father. I slowly stood. Without realizing it, I walked toward the painting. My eyes filled with tears. For 25 years, Gaz. I had wondered why I looked different from everyone else. Now I understood. I reached out but stopped before touching the frame. I wish I could remember them. Henry quietly replied, Gaz. They would have been very proud of the woman you've become. After several minutes, Henry spoke again. There is someone I'd like you to meet. Who? My grandson. I turned around. Gaz. I don't understand. He manages much of the estate now. Before I could ask another question, the library door opened. A tall man entered wearing a navy blue suit. Gaz. He looked to be around 30 years old, dark hair, calm blue eyes, a confident but gentle expression. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He simply carried himself with quiet dignity. Henry smiled. Emily. This is Duke Alexander Blackwood. Alexander stopped a few steps away. For several seconds, he simply looked at me, not in surprise, not with pity, just with quiet respect. Gaz. Then he bowed slightly. It's an honor to finally meet you. His voice was calm and sincere. I awkwardly smiled. I think everyone knows who I am except me. To my surprise, Alexander laughed softly. So do I. I looked confused. What does that mean? When my grandfather first told me your story, I thought it sounded impossible. And now I think life enjoys surprising us. Gaz. For the first time in weeks, I laughed, a real laugh, small, but real. Henry noticed. So did Alexander. Neither of them said anything. Over the next hour, Henry explained everything. Gaz. The Ashford family had once been one of the country's most respected royal families. After the tragic attack 25 years earlier, everyone believed the direct bloodline had ended. Gaz. Only a few trusted people knew the truth. Henry was one of them. My adoptive mother was another. They agreed to keep my identity secret until it was safe. But why now? I asked. Henry looked serious. Gaz. Because the people who threatened your family are no longer in power, and because your mother believed you deserved the truth. I lowered my eyes. I wish she were here. So do I. Gaz. As evening arrived, Alexander offered to show me the gardens. We walked slowly along stone paths lined with roses. The sun painted the sky orange. For a while, neither of us spoke. Finally, he broke the silence. You seem overwhelmed. I am, if it helps. I felt the same way. You, he smiled. Being a duke doesn't mean life is easy. Gaz. It only means your problems are usually bigger. I couldn't help smiling. You don't act like someone important. He shrugged. My grandfather says titles impress strangers. Gaz. Character impresses everyone else. I thought about Ethan. He had spent years chasing status. Alexander already had it, yet he never mentioned it. The difference was impossible to ignore. Gaz. As we reached the center fountain, Alexander suddenly stopped. Can I ask you something? Of course. If you had known all this years ago, would you have lived differently? Gaz. I thought for a long moment, then slowly shook my head. No, why? Because being poor taught me compassion. Being betrayed taught me strength. If I had grown up inside a palace, Gaz, I might never have become the person I am today. Alexander smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Why? Because the kingdom doesn't need another perfect princess, Gaz. It needs someone who understands ordinary people. His words stayed with me long after we returned inside. For the first time, I didn't feel like a poor salesgirl pretending to belong. I simply felt Gaz, like myself. But neither Alexander nor I realized that, hundreds of miles away, Ethan had just discovered one shocking piece of news. Someone had seen me getting into a royal limousine, Gaz. And by the next morning, my ex-husband would begin asking questions that would turn his comfortable new life upside down.